Hello, Abnormal Investigations. How's everybody doing? I hope you all enjoyed the last video. It was a rather long one. It was about 30 minutes. I think this one's going to be kind of long too, so we'll go ahead and jump into it. The person that sent it in to me said it happened March 15th, 2023, and I think it's going to be an interesting one, so we'll go ahead and jump into that. Hello, I'm 36 years old, female from Finland. I had many encounters, Mike, and experiences which I would like to share with you. Also, this is going to be a long post. I apologize for mistakes since I'm self-taught about English. Before I tell you my real stories, there's a few things I need to explain beforehand. First of all, I grew up and I lived in a super tiny town in the middle of nowhere, literally. For 22 years, our home was surrounded by forests as far as the eye can see in all directions. Closest neighbor was 10 minutes walk away from the closest market, being 30 minutes away by car. The nearest city was a 1-hour car trip away. We had no internet or cell phones back in those days either. My family of 5 is not religious, so any encounter, what you are about to read or hear, has no connection to religion. However, my big sister and I are spiritual people with 20 plus years of experience and knowledge. Myself or anyone else in my family has never used alcohol, drugs, or smoke, the wacky stuff, so those hasn't affected any of the encounters either. Those stories are in random order, and I hope you don't mind it. Now that those are out of the way, here we go. All things what happened to me in my old home. Our home was old, 2-leveled wooden house, what we got from church because we had been homeless otherwise. My father has always been good from his hands. Also being self-taught, he did a lot of fixing and rebuilding in the house, building a second floor and many buildings outside on the yard as well. Everything was good and normal, but it all changed when I was 15 or so. It was sunny summer, and I was brushing our biggest garage floor, separated from the house, when suddenly I felt like if someone would have snapped their finger in my brain. I gasped out loud and almost dropped the broom, screaming in shock in my head how negatively I had lived my life. Note: I was bullied in school by students and headmaster for 5 years, so it left its mark. Not to mention father was angry 24/7, which made us live in constant fear. Anyway, from that day on, I lived my life more happily, also opening up to spirits and other beings. At first, I started to sense negative energies in our home. It made me feel like if I had an apple slice stuck sideways in my throat. Worst feeling came always at night because I was a night owl, staying easily awake at 6 a.m. Another negative energy I sensed in and from the forest right across our front door, just a few hundred meters away. That part of the forest was the worst. Inside the house, mainly in the kitchen, I would hear pots and pans clang hard against each other in the cabin, like if they had fell, but when I went to investigate, all of them were exactly on their right spots. None of them hadn't moved. Once my father heard it, too, when he was in the kitchen. He turned to look at me with confusion, and he looked in his eyes as I stood in the doorway. Neither of us said anything. It was all familiar to me, but new to him. There were times when I heard these sounds, but never bothered with them. After all, I didn't know what they were either. Note: squirrels or other animals didn't get inside our home. In Finland, houses are very well built and isolated because we have long, cold winters. That negative energy or being, or whatever it was, which was in our home during the nights, was more or less different thing. I like to mention, I stayed awake nights. Like I mentioned, it was a very weird feeling. Almost every night I felt the negativity, getting the feeling of an apple slice being stuck in my throat. My big sister, who has been a spiritual person much longer than me, sensed it too. It never attacked us physically, but its presence was enough to make us feel very uneasy. Worst part was going to the bathroom during the night. Now, summer nights in Finland are very bright. Sunday just barely goes behind, the sun just barely goes behind the horizon, but you can still see clearly at 3 a.m. outside. It looks like if there would be a cloudy day outside instead of a night, so going to the bathroom during the summer nights was okay. It was totally different during the autumn and winter, when the sun sets behind the horizon, which more earlier, darkness consuming almost 19 hours of the day. Our bedroom was on the second floor, which was basically just one big room cut openly in half. Mother and father slept on the other side, the front yard side, and my brother and I slept on the backyard side. My big sister didn't live home anymore during these times. My bed was right next to the railing, which blocked me from falling on the stairs, which went down to the living room. Right next to the stairs was a bright nightlight for safety reasons, so that none of us would fall down the stairs during the night while going to the bathroom. So I went down the stairs, walked through the living room, and stopped at the living room's doorway, which led to two hallways. One was right to my left, but across to me, and the cottage wall was a wide one, and a wide big mirror. I feared the mirror so much during the dark nights. It always felt that I would see someone or something evil in the dark stare back at me, so I avoided looking at it most of the times. I dashed to my left, going through the hallway, to entering hallway 1, where a small bathroom was. Hallway 1 was small and had a front door. Right next to it was a small window on the wall. Across the bathroom's door was 3 other small windows, all of them facing towards the eerie part of the forest, which I mentioned before. Always, whenever going to the bathroom during these dark nights, I felt like there's a line of evil beings staring inside through the windows. Those 3 other windows were meters high above the ground, so none had been able to look in, or I wouldn't think they could. Back in those days, we also had male Belgian shepherds, and he barked easily everything and everyone, so no one couldn't come to our yard without him hearing and alarming us. When I left the bathroom, I rushed out of that first hallway, walked through the second, coming face to face with that horrible mirror again in the cottage. I usually managed not to look at it, but at times I did, feeling more or less relieved when I did see anything. I was so glad not to see anything, even that I still felt it. Coming back to the base of the stairs leading to the upstairs was the worst. After a few steps, I, like my siblings, felt a dark presence standing right behind us. I rushed up the stairs, at times looking behind me. No one at the base of the stairs, but I still knew whatever it was there looking at me, even if I couldn't see it. I think this thing attached itself to me since I kept feeling it behind me even years after we sold our house. I still fear mirrors during the nights. Only after I drew an art about myself looking at the mirror, seeing this black hooded figure behind me, it vanished. I think it realized only then that I was aware of it. The 2 other scary encounters at my old home happened again during the darkest times of the year. For some reason, activity was more well active during autumn and winter, when it was dark almost full day round. I was on my bed at 3 or 4 a.m., trying to get some sleep, even that I wasn't tired at all. I was on my back, suddenly feeling strong negative energy radiating from my parents' side. Just by turning my head to my left, I saw clearly to my parents' side, seeing everything in their room. Their bed was on the left end of the facing towards the small fireplace. Right next to this fireplace was a huge and wide black mirror, only a few meters from me. The top part, which was standing up, was as tall as the fireplace with the flue, maybe as high as 163 centimeters, or almost 5.5 feet tall, while lower part maybe as long as the upper body part. I was laying against the floor. It had huge, bulgy eyes on the side of its head. Outside circle of the eyes were red and inner side yellow with a small black pupil. On the other side of its body were red, yellow, round marks. If I would have to describe it with a living, real maggot, it looked like a maggot. I would say it was very close to an elephant hawk moth, except it was fully black with those red yellow marks on its eyes, with that horrible negative energy and such an intense gaze. It just stood there staring at me without even blinking. I was so scared. I think I've never been so scared in my life. I turned my back to it, hiding under my blanket. I closed my eyes and prayed to Archangel Michael to come and shoo it away, to keep it away and to protect my home and my family, just like my sister had taught me to do. It didn't take more than a few seconds after my prayer for the negative energy to fade away. I waited a bit more, finally daring to look. It was gone. The maggot had left, and I felt so thankful and relieved. But you can bet I didn't sleep that night. I believe one reason why there was so much negativity in my old home was my father. He was always angry, hard to please, very strict with rules, and so on. I can say we had no normal childhood thanks to him. His anger and negativity attracted who knows what in our home from who knows where. However, I believe most of the things came in our home from the nasty forest across our front door. I truly believe that. More things happened to me during the nights in my bed. These experiences were short and thankfully not scary, but very special, so I want to share them too. Please note that in every story, the nightlight was always on during the nights. Night 1, as usual, I was on my back in my bed, eyes closed around 3 a.m., still feeling pretty awake. Bright and big nightlight shined behind the railing across the staircase on my right, illuminating the whole upstairs clearly. As I kept laying still, I suddenly started to feel invisible water on my face. It was slightly and pleasantly warm, very relaxing. I didn't bother to open my eyes since I felt so peaceful and safe. I felt this water pour gently down the middle of my forehead, like a waterfall, where it slowly traveled down my face. I have to say I have never felt so relaxed and safe, and I did during this moment. It didn't last long, but it meant so much to me. It stopped as suddenly as it had started. I slept so well during that night. Night number 2 again, I was on my bed, on my back, eyes closed. I wasn't tired, even the clock must have been around 3 or 4 a.m. once again. This time I didn't feel the water, but I heard the most heavenly music I've ever heard. In all honesty, there's no sounds or words on earth to describe what I heard. And no, it was not TV, radio, or neighbors. Just like myself, my father has always been extremely light sleeper. He wouldn't have been able to sleep if the TV radio would have been on. Our neighbors also lived 1 kilometer away, so we never heard any sounds or saw them or any lights from them. There was no traffic since we lived at the end of a small forest road, far away from the main roads. I listened to this music in awe, almost in tears, since it touched my soul so much. I felt so homey. I feel so sad I've not heard this music or anything similar again. And I have longed to hear this again. I know it sounds weird. Night 3, I was on my bed, on my back, facing the ceiling with open eyes. All of a sudden I noticed something coming down through the ceiling. It's bottom half of an old armor. I watched silently, in slight surprise, how the armor came through the ceiling, soundlessly, slowly landing by the side of my bed. When its toes touched the floor, it vanished. It was surprised and stunned. In a good way. You don't see that every day, and I haven't ever since. I wonder where the armor came from, since to my knowledge our home spot had no history of activity which could have caused that. On the 4th night, it was summer day, or not the 4th night, it was the 4th encounter. It was a summer day, and I was standing in the kitchen having clear vision to the cottage doorway. We had so-called the open concept back in the early 90s already. I stood sideways, suddenly seeing solid black shadowy figure standing in the doorway. Now the doors were opened all the way since my other family members were out with the dog, who was off the leash 24/7. He never left our yard, and like I said before, he barked at everything and everyone. Our old wooden floors also creaked under the slightest of weight, so I would have had heard his steps, so I knew it was not a real person standing at the doorway. I eyed him a moment from the corner of my eye. He was wearing a black cape with a hood being fully covered with them. I didn't see his face, but his shape otherwise was like a human. Only when I turned to face him, he vanished. I was slightly stunned, but didn't bother with it any more than that. As long as they didn't have negative energy, I didn't worry. On the fifth encounter, once again, sunny summer day. This time I was in the living room watching Dragon Ball Z anime back in 2003 when it aired in Finland for the first time. I don't remember what episode exactly, but I remember seeing Vegeta on the screen. God, I had a huge crush on him as a teenage girl. I smiled and thought, he is so wonderful. He is a wonderful character. And instantly, right after that, I felt two fingers taking a strip of my long blonde hair between them, sliding down extremely gently. I knew I was alone because, again, my family was outside, and no stranger could have come in without our dog noticing. I smiled and said thank you in my mind. I don't know who it was, but the touch was loving and gentle, making me happy and calm again. On the sixth encounter, my brother, sister, and I stood at the second floor staring out the window during the dark autumn evening, watching the stars. My sister was on the phone with her best friend. I was eyeing the sky right above the treetops when I saw this big black meteor, kind of a ball coming down, fast, and it had blue flames and a small regular flame. It hit the ground behind those trees, but there was no sound. No shaking ground, nothing. My little brother saw it too, but my big sister didn't for some reason. It was not a star, it was not a plane, helicopter, anything like that. Honestly, it looked like a black meteor, and it was honestly big. I wanted to go check it out, but I was afraid to since my father had warned us to never go wander in those woods. He had done that once, stepping on an unmarked well. Luckily, he didn't fall in there fully, just his other leg. So we never went to investigate. No one else showed up to investigate it either. Sometimes I still wonder, was it a fallen angel that landed back there? I was maybe 6 years old when my big sister and I saw huge yellow lights a few times while walking home from school. There was always two of them. It was winter time when we saw these lights many times, always on the same spot. They always appeared behind us, looking like cars, long front lights. My sister always told me to come to walk to her side so that the car could pass. Except there was never a car. We were the last ones living at the end of the road, and car lights couldn't shine that far. It was a curvy spot behind the woods from our neighbor's yard, from about a kilometer away, as I said. Once these two huge round lights appeared on the side of our home, when we walked towards home, there was never any sound. They just appeared and disappeared just like that, but I think I might know what caused them. I was coming home alone during dark afternoon, maybe around 3 or 4 p.m. It was late autumn, early winter, and the sun rose around 10 a.m. and it would set around 2 p.m. I climbed up the stairs on the porch looking inside through the window next to our front door. Back then we had a male German Shepherd. He was never aggressive toward us, so I was confused when I saw him in the first hallway. He was keeping his head down, his hair all stood up. He was growling. I had never seen him like this before. Then something made me look up to the right. Right next to our porch, which was many meters above the ground, was floating a small UFO. It had a dome on top, disc-shaped middle part, with colorful line going around the ship with a line of small round windows at the bottom, was another dome. Inside the ship was grayish-green light, which I saw through the windows. I wasn't afraid or numb or anything like that. I just wasn't. I stared at it for a few seconds before I saw movement from left to right, moved a figure inside the ship, stopping behind the second window. It turned to face me. It was an alien. Big head, big black eyes, the usual. It looked at me and raised his long skinny hand, waving at me slowly. I couldn't see his mouth, but I could sense his happiness. It made me happy, so I waved back at him with a smile. Now the next part is confusing since I don't know which one is real. I opened the front door and stepped inside, our dog still being on alarm with his head down and hair up. No growling. I just suddenly was standing inside the hallway in front of our dog, who I looked at him and he looked at me with concern. like making sure I was okay. I was okay, but I never saw this alien or UFO ever again. I wish I could have. Another encounter I had, I don't remember why. I was going downstairs during the summer day, but I stopped in front of the window on the second floor. As I looked outside, I noticed something on the birch tree in our backyard. Sat someone or something. It was solid black, humanoid figure. It was squatted on the branch quite high up in the tree, on the same level with our second floor window. It had no face or any other visible features. It had only overly long arms which hang down with two long legs. I wasn't afraid, but rather surprised. However, I had no time for it, so I just ignored it and went downstairs later on. I learned that this creature was a shadow person. I find them quite fascinating. Anyway, I saw it the second time. One school morning, I was in middle school, which was further away, so taxi came to pick us up, taking us far away to the bus stop. At one point during this trip, I felt horrible. I didn't want to go to school since I was bullied, but none knew about it. I never was brave enough to tell anyone. As I rolled all kinds of thoughts into my mind, I noticed something by the side of the taxi at the edge of the forest. It was this same shadow person that was running on all fours, keeping up with the taxi easily. I saw it only then, whenever it emerged from the shadows of the trees and bushes. Morning sunlight hitting it. I was shocked, but soon happiness and relief filled me. It had come to escort me, to tell me I would be all right. I just knew it. It was not bad or evil, like they normally aren't. I don't know, but I smiled at it, saying thank you into my mind. Right after my thanks to it, this shadow person stopped in a big shadow, never being seen again. I hope it still lives in those woods, knowing how happy it made me back then. Sometimes I have the urge to go look for it and to be with it. It's hard to explain how grateful I still am to it. On another encounter, it was a cold winter night, and I was awake. Coming into the kitchen, as I turned the lights on, I noticed a white ball of fur sitting back towards me on the windowsill. It was the size of a kitten or so. Maybe its tail was long and thin, having a black tassel at the end of its tail. I saw only for a few seconds when I turned the lights on, it turning to look at me and then jumped down from the windowsill so quickly my eyes couldn't follow it. I know it was not a kitten or any other wild animal. I think it rather was some kind of winter troll because it looked a lot like one. It was small and looked just like a troll that I'd heard in my childhood. Now, few dreams. I've been having lots of dreams in my life, most of them sadly nightmares, but some have been delivering messages one way or another. Here's one of the messages I received. I got a message about my friend's bad cancer via the dream. In the dream, a nurse told me my friend had died, and I woke up in tears. My friend lived in another country, so I sent her a message online. She replied to me later that day, and my dream was correct. She did have it, and she would die on it since doctors couldn't do anything for her. I think her health went downhill very fast because I stopped hearing from her rather quickly. I miss her at times, still wondering if she is still alive or not. In another dream, I was in the near forest. At the curve, right next to the road, always was, and still probably is, a huge stone. As a kid, I used to go climb on it, but after this dream, I stopped. In the dream, I stood on it a bit further from the rock. I seen a large troll coming out behind it. He had greenish skin, a long big nose, and a long black hair. He was big and muscular. He came right in front of me, stopped, bent down, placing his mouth right next to my right ear, and he screamed. He let out one low but super loud scream, scaring me awake. I took the hint. I was disturbing his peace and his home, so I stopped, wanting to be respectful. I actually believe this dream was true because I truly felt that I had left my body, and when I woke, I almost felt myself slam into the bed back into my body. One summer day, my little brother and I sat on the couch in the living room. The couch was against the back wall near the stairs going upstairs. We had a window open upstairs with a bug net to get some fresh air in. All of a sudden, both me and my brother see small birds flying to the window upstairs. It was weird, but we didn't mind too much of it. However, What we did mind was the fact that the bird called out my brother's name once before flying off. My brother and I stared at one another surprised, not saying a word. I still don't know what it was, since in Finland we don't have wild birds which could talk, mimic. Speaking crows was it, but it's illegal to have or to even own a crow. Which I think's a good thing. Wild animals belong in nature. Anyways, there were many times when I would hear an unknown voice, female or male, call my name inside the house. Sometimes it would even sound just like me. It was always inside the house. It was never bad, though. Just weird and confusing, and it would mimic my voice almost perfectly. Now to that evil forest, like I have said many times already, the forest right across our front door was bad. Or evil, if you want to call it that. It was honestly dark, vibrating with a negativity which made me fear it. It was normal during the summers, but during autumn and winter, when most parts of the day was dark, that place was totally opposite. Back then, my father had a stallion, and he left him in my care. Every evening I went to feed him at 8 p.m., give him water and hay for the night. However, the trip to the stable, which was at another end of our yard, was different. Right away, when I stepped outside onto the porch, I could feel lots of eyes on me, staring at me from the forest. I always ran to the stable, feeling afraid of the gazes on my back. Only after inside the stable I felt safe, but I had to do the same when going back inside the house. I ran from the stable to the porch, going as quickly as possible. Only after I locked the front door behind me I felt safe. Yet again, it was a horrible time. Not to mention all those red orbs I saw at the edge of the forest on different levels. I don't know where they are, or if there were even eyes. They could have all been orbs. A few times I saw yellow orbs, which didn't freak me out, but they were small, comforting. Still to this day, I wonder what's in that forest. I would like to go investigate, but not having my own car or license, it's impossible. I'm not even sure I would like to know the truth to what's in there. I never had any of these until I moved into my current apartment after my big sister moved out of it about 11 years ago. All was good at first until one night I woke up. I couldn't move or talk. I freaked out. I tried to scream myself awake and panic, but it didn't help. I begged Archangel Michael to come help me, and soon after I passed out, waking up later normally. Many other times were the same, either in my place or somewhere else. I always freaked out and tried to scream myself away. People tell me I experienced sleep paralysis. This was one of the most scariest things I had ever encountered. Once I was visiting my big sister when this happened. She has a small flat with one room, tiny kitchen, and a tiny bathroom. She slept on the bed at the end of the room while I slept on the couch. I woke up on my back, my right arm up on the back of the couch. I realized I was having sleep paralysis, so I tried to scream myself awake. All of a sudden, I saw a white glowing being emerging from my big sister. It walked to me behind the couch, took gentle hold of my arm, and placed it back onto my lap before vanishing. I woke up and told this to my sister later the same day. We both instantly agreed that the light being had been my sister's higher self who came to rescue me. Many other times I just wake up realizing I'm walking inside either my apartment, my sister's, or my mom's if I'm visiting either of them. Yes, it is called astral projection. The moment I realize I'm having an out-of-body experience is when I try to turn on the lights and my hand just goes through the switch. It annoys me, and I angrily tell my soul to get back to my body. It works, though. I still don't enjoy these experiences and have been told that they are evil by all the preachers that I've spoke to. I have never seen a ghost but this one time, or a demon, as some people would call it. My mother and I took my big sister to her friend's house when we were teenagers. The house was hundreds of years old, at the farm. As I sat at the back seat of the car, I looked up to the attic window. I saw an old woman's face there. She looked very sour. I knew instantly she was a ghost. I was not afraid, rather fascinated. She didn't stay behind the window for long. When I looked away and back, she was gone. I later told my mom about it and my sister, who knew to tell me her friend's grandmother, a ghost, lived in the attic, and everyone else was aware of it, and they accepted it. Sadly, the house burned down last month all of a sudden. I hope the grandmother has now found peace, since she was quite angry ghost, pushing people down the stairs if they dared to come to the attic, which was her place. I did have a guardian angel experience. We all have guardian angels from our birth to our death. I feel blessed for managing to meet mine. However, it happened via dream. I was very open getting messages and visions via dream when I was younger. In the dream, I was dancing in a circle with angels on pink clouds, 5 of them, and I didn't know, but angel to my left was Michael, and an angel to my right was my guardian angel. When I was working at a daycare in 2003-2004, I was laying on my stomach on the bed between 2 kids, reading them a story in order to make them fall asleep and take a nap. In the middle of the reading, I felt a big warm palm on my lower back. It was so loving touch, it made me smile, and I felt a gentle joy. I know it was not any of the adults since I was in the room alone, and it wasn't any child since the kids were all small, 2, 5, and 4. Another sleeping already had the other still looking at me. Eventually they both were sleeping, and I got out of the room still feeling amazed by the touch. I just know it was my angel. Second time my angel stepped in to help me was the following. I was walking to a nearby market with my mother during the summer, maybe 8 years ago, if not longer. On the nearby yard were 2 girls, maybe 10 at the most, who were going to take a hunting dog for a walk. As my mom and I walked forward, 2 bikers went past us, but we all stopped when we heard those girls scream. My mother was way ahead of me going down the hill, stopping to wait for me. As I spun around, coming to stand behind these bikers, I saw a dog running away from the girls without a collar or a leash. Right beside the road, the girl screamed and yelled at the dog, but it didn't listen. It was then when I felt a strong but gentle, encouraging push on my back, like a mother who pushes her child forward, telling me to be brave and say hi. I've never felt so confident as I took the firm steps forward, stepping out from behind the bikers. The dog was still far away, but I still pointed in front of me, saying loud and firm, "Here!" And the dog came. He ran to me instantly, stopping to stand in front of me sideways, panting hard. The other girls yelled at me to grab him, but I didn't. I petted him instead, knowing deep inside he wouldn't go anywhere. The girls came and took the dog. Bikers were staring at me like if I was something beyond this world. After I was sure the girls would be okay with the dog, which appeared to be not well trained, I turned around and headed to my mom, continuing our trip to the market with her. I felt and still feel so amazing. When I think of that moment when my angel gave me that push, who knows what would have happened to the dog and the girls if my angel wouldn't have given me that push. I used to visit my big sister 4 times a year when she was living with her roommate in a bigger apartment. During one of my visits there, something happened. Her roommate's family was coming to visit, so there was not enough space for us all, so my sister went to spend the night at her best friend's, giving me her room. It was late, and I laid on my back in her bed. Bed's head was against the wall. On my left was a wall with a big window. Across from me was another wall. To my right was a wall with closets, and right next to the bed was a door, which was closed for privacy reasons. The curtain was open, city lights shining outside, brightening the room. I saw everything clearly. I closed my eyes, sighed, and relaxed. You know the moment when you close your eyes very tight and everything goes black? Well, imagine a second layer of that darkness coming inside your eyelids. That's what happened to me. Everything became more black. In wonder, I opened my eyes, coming face to face with a black face. It had no eyes or eye holes, no mouth. But then there was a nose and a mouth, hair, ears, nothing. And then it would go away like it was fading in and out. A normal person would have these things, but not fade in and out. Just simple and clear black silhouette. It was right there in front of my face. If this shadow person would have had a nose, it would have been pressed against mine, hard. It was so close. I stared at it a second before it realized I was awake, looking at it. The shadow person jumped back in clear panic, standing up at the side of my bed. It was tall and thin. From there it glided with great speed past the bed, right through the closed bedroom door. All this done without a sound. I sat up staring after it, as I rather surprised and happy, but also feeling sorry for the poor thing. I know some shadow people are curious about us humans, and they watch us in our sleep, but they're also very shy, not wanting to scare us. This was one of them, so I apologized to it in my mind, laying back down. I was able to sleep my night well without any visiting me again. However, it showed up to me a few days later. I was sitting in the living room, where I could see the kitchen, and my sister's roommate's closed door while my sister sat on a chair across me, her roommate sitting between us while playing with her PS3. I sat on my mattress on the floor. As I sat there, I noticed a figure from the corner of my eye. It was the shadow person, the very same one from the night. It stood shyly at the kitchen's doorway near the roommate's door. Its body language and energy gave out a sign. I'm scared. I'm shy. Please don't fear me. I'm unsure. I didn't mean to scare you earlier. I felt bad for it once again, so I smiled at it after turning to look at it, thinking in my head that I was glad to see it and it's all right. I'm not afraid. The shadow person visibly relaxed, standing up straight instead of trying to bend forward. It made itself small and hide. It felt happy, but most of all relieved. After it stood straight and relaxed, it disappeared, walking into her friend's room. I later told this to my sister, who informed me that her roommate, just like herself, had seen the same shadow person a few times, but the roommate refused to talk about it or listen to anything about it because she was afraid of it. That's why my sister and I have always talked about it and other supernatural things when her roommate was at work. Because of a spirit world isn't scary if you know how it works and know how to handle it. And these days I wonder where that shadow person is. Is it still in that apartment, or has it moved away somewhere else? This happened in 2016. I was alone at home around 1 a.m. when I suddenly got a huge urge to meditate. Back then, I meditated very rarely. I had no idea what was going on, but I had a feeling someone wanted to speak to me, someone desperately. I lit up a candle and incense and said protection prayers and started meditation after grounding myself. It didn't take long for me to travel in a nearby hospital. Landing in a room with a bed. On the hospital bed laid a skinny old man, clearly weak and sick. I had never seen him before, still hasn't, and yet instantly I knew who he was. Beside the bed was his son, his daughter, and my mother, because my mother was dating the son who was in the room. No one else saw me except this dying old man. I smiled softly at him, and I made my way to the edge of the bed. Sitting down facing him, I placed my hands on his, holding it gently. I asked, "Do you see bright light bulbs?" He said happily, "Yes." I kept smiling softly and asked, "Are you afraid? Do you feel good?" He said, "No, I'm not, and I feel very good, so warm and calm." I nodded and smiled and said my last words, "Then go. You are free to go if you want to." He felt so happy and relieved after hearing that, relaxing. Soon after this, my meditation ended and I went to bed. When I woke up the next morning, checking my Facebook, my mother had sent me a private message saying this old man had passed away during the night, around 1 a.m. I felt happy and relieved he was now gone. Since that, Mom told me this man had a rough life with an abusive wife who kept him starved and abused him in every other way. He was my mom's boyfriend's dad. He was now in love and in a light of peace and free. He only needed someone to come to give him permission to leave. At times, souls don't move on because their loved ones keep telling them not to go. It's important to support our loved ones, encourage them to heal, but we also must learn when it's time to let go and to give them permission, no matter how much it would hurt. Sometimes they need this permission to be able to move on. They deserve love, peace, and the permission to move on also, and for us not to be selfish. I hope you all have enjoyed my encounters, Mike. I'm not going to say a whole lot about this, but the daycare, people, pray for your children and pray over your children for protection. You don't know who's watching your children or what they're into or what attachments they may have. Her feeling that on her back and thinking that it was okay and then leaving the children in that room asleep by themselves, it really bothered me probably more than anything in the story, other than the fact that she believes it's okay to astral project and to speak to demons. That is what I believe them to be. Yeah, I'm going to leave it right there, guys. I think we're going to get some really interesting comments on this one. I'm interested to see what y'all have to say. Very scary if you think about it. I mean, yeah, it's not one of those. It's just something to chase you down and try to eat you. This one has a different scariness to it, and I think you all understand what I'm talking about. And I think once you get to the end of this, you will see what I'm trying to convey to you. But yeah, I look forward to your comments, guys. Thank you for your support, and until next time, guys, keep your head on a swivel. Don't be something's dinner, and we'll see you on the next one.